For thousands of years, a body of knowledge has existed that explains exactly how reality works. Not the reality they teach in schools, not the reality you see on the surface, the actual mechanics of existence. The laws that govern manifestation. The principles that determine what becomes real and what remains fantasy. This knowledge has been deliberately suppressed, hidden in plain sight, coded in ancient texts, and kept from the masses for one simple reason. If you understood how reality actually works, you could change it. And those in power cannot allow that. What you are about to hear are 12 metaphysical laws that govern existence itself. These are not beliefs or philosophies. These are operational realities that function whether you believe in them or not, just like gravity works whether you believe in it or not. The difference is, you were taught about gravity. You were never taught these laws because understanding them gives you power over your reality that the system cannot control. Every mystic, sage, and enlightened master throughout history understood these principles. They built temples encoding this knowledge. They wrote texts concealing these truths. They passed wisdom through secret lineages. And the institutions of control have spent centuries ensuring you never discovered what they knew. Until now. Before we begin, hit the like button and comment where you're watching from. This helps the algorithm share this forbidden knowledge with others who are ready to receive it. Now, let us reveal what they desperately tried to hide. Chapter 1, The Law of Consciousness Primacy. The first metaphysical law they hid from you is this. Consciousness is primary. Matter is secondary. Everything you see, touch, and experience is consciousness taking form. The physical world is not the foundation of reality. Consciousness is. This single truth, if fully understood, changes everything. You were taught the opposite. You were told that matter is real and consciousness is just a byproduct of brain chemistry. That the physical world exists independently and your awareness is merely observing it. This is inverted truth designed to keep you powerless. The actual sequence is consciousness creates thought. Thought creates energy. Energy creates matter. Not the reverse. Every ancient wisdom tradition knew this. The Vedas state it clearly. Consciousness is the only reality. The Buddhists teach that mind precedes all phenomena. Hermetic philosophy declares that all is mind, the universe is mental. This was not poetry or religion. This was accurate description of how reality operates at the most fundamental level. Sarah spent 30 years believing her external circumstances created her internal states. Bad things happened, so she felt bad. Good things happened, so she felt good. She was a passive victim of external reality. Then she learned about consciousness primacy. She realized she had it backwards. Her internal state was creating her external circumstances. Her consciousness was the cause, not the effect. When she shifted her internal state first, her external reality began matching it. This was not wishful thinking. This was understanding which came first. The implications are staggering. If consciousness is primary, then changing your consciousness changes your reality. If matter is secondary, then physical circumstances are effects, not causes. If thought precedes form, then mastering thought is the path to mastering experience. This is why they hide this law. A population that understands consciousness primacy cannot be controlled by external manipulation. They control reality from within. Modern physics is slowly catching up to what mystics always knew. Quantum mechanics reveals that observation affects outcome. The observer effect shows consciousness influences matter at quantum levels. Double-slit experiments prove particles behave differently when observed. Science is rediscovering that consciousness and matter are not separate. Consciousness shapes matter. Here is the practical application. Stop reacting to external circumstances as if they are the cause. Recognize them as effects of prior consciousness. When you change what you hold in consciousness, you change what manifests in matter. This is not positive thinking. This is understanding the actual order of creation. Consciousness first, manifestation second. Always. The world is not happening to you. The world is happening from you. Your consciousness is the projector. Physical reality is the screen. Change the film in the projector, and the image on the screen must change. This is the first law they hid because it places all power exactly where they don't want it. In You, Chapter 2, The Law of Vibration, the second metaphysical law, reveals that nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. From the slowest vibration of solid matter to the highest vibration of pure consciousness, all of existence is in constant motion at specific frequencies. This is not metaphor. This is physics. And understanding it gives you the key to changing your reality. The chair you sit on appears solid, but is actually atoms vibrating at specific frequencies. Your body appears solid, but is energy patterns oscillating. Your thoughts are vibrations. Your emotions are vibrations. Everything in existence is vibration at different rates. Change the vibration. Change the form. This is the secret of transformation. Ancient mystery schools taught initiates to master vibration before attempting any other spiritual work. They knew that you cannot manifest high-frequency outcomes from low-frequency states. You cannot create love from hate. You cannot generate wealth from poverty consciousness. You cannot produce health from disease vibration. Like attracts like at the level of frequency. Marcus was trapped in low-frequency patterns, anger, fear, resentment. These emotions were not just feelings, they were vibrational states that attracted matching experiences. More situations to be angry about, more circumstances to fear, more reasons to resent. He was in a self-reinforcing loop of low-frequency attraction. Then he learned the law of vibration. He realized he could deliberately raise his frequency through specific practices, music, movement, gratitude, meditation, surrounding himself with higher frequency environments. As his vibration rose, his external circumstances began to shift. New opportunities appeared. Synchronicities multiplied. The quality of his relationships improved. Nothing in his external world had changed yet, but his vibration had, and matching frequencies were being attracted. This is why the wealthy stay wealthy and the poor stay poor. Not because of circumstances, but because of vibrational set points. Wealth vibrates at a specific frequency. Poverty vibrates at another. Most people try to change circumstances while maintaining the same vibration. This is impossible. You must raise vibration first, then circumstances match the new frequency. Here is what they don't want you to know. You can measure and deliberately change your vibration. Specific sounds affect brainwave patterns. Certain movements shift energetic states. Particular thoughts generate measurable electromagnetic fields. This is not mysticism. This is biophysics, and it means you have direct control over your vibrational state. The practical application is constant vibrational hygiene. Monitor what you consume. Media, food, relationships, environments, everything has a frequency. Consuming low-frequency inputs lowers your vibration. Consuming high-frequency inputs raises it. Stop consuming news designed to trigger fear. Stop eating dead processed foods. Stop surrounding yourself with complainers and victims. These are vibrational anchors keeping you locked at frequencies where your desires cannot manifest. Instead, deliberately elevate. Listen to music at 432 Hz. Practice gratitude daily to shift emotional frequency. Move your body to raise physical vibration. Meditate to access higher consciousness states. Surround yourself with people vibrating at frequencies you want to match. This is not self-help fluff. This is applied metaphysics. Reality responds to frequency. Broadcast the frequency of what you desire, and reality must deliver matching experiences. This is law. This is what they hid. Chapter 3, The Law of Correspondence, the third metaphysical law, states as above, so below. As within, so without. As the universe, so the soul. This principle reveals that reality operates in patterns that repeat at every scale. What is true microscopically is true macroscopically. What is true internally is true externally. Understanding this law lets you see the invisible by observing the visible. Your external life is a perfect mirror of your internal state. Not sometime, not mostly. Always and completely. If your relationships are chaotic, your inner world is chaotic. If your finances are scarce, your consciousness holds scarcity. If your health is declining, your life force is depleted. The outer world is not separate from the inner world. It is the projection of it. This is uncomfortable truth because it means everything in your life is your responsibility, not blame. Responsibility. You are responsible, able to respond by changing the inner cause rather than fighting outer effects. But this responsibility is also total power. If the outer reflects the inner, then changing the inner changes the outer with absolute reliability. Victoria kept attracting dishonest business partners. She blamed them. Bad people everywhere, she concluded. Then she learned the law of correspondence. She looked within honestly. What pattern in her own consciousness was attracting dishonesty? She discovered she had been dishonest with herself, denying her own needs, lying about her boundaries, betraying her own values. Her external experience of being betrayed by others was the mirror of her internal self-betrayal. When she stopped betraying herself, dishonest partners stopped appearing, not gradually, immediately. The outer correspondence shifted when the inner pattern changed. This law extends to everything. Your physical body corresponds to your emotional body. Disease manifests where emotional energy is blocked. Your bank account corresponds to your value consciousness. Money flows match self-worth levels. Your relationships correspond to your relationship with yourself. You cannot attract treatment from others better than what you give yourself. The Hermetic masters who preserved this knowledge taught that man is the microcosm and the universe is the macrocosm. All universal principles can be understood by looking within. All personal transformation creates universal ripples. You are not separate from reality. You are a fractal hologram containing the whole pattern. This is why ancient temples and sacred geometry encode this law everywhere. The spiral of a galaxy matches the spiral of D-Na matches the spiral of a seashell. The branching of neurons matches the branching of trees, matches the branching of rivers. The pattern repeats because reality is one system expressing at different scales. Learn to see the pattern once, and you understand it everywhere. Here is the practical application. Stop trying to fix external problems while ignoring internal causes. Your outer life is showing you exactly what exists in your inner world. Read the correspondence. If you want different external results, change the internal patterns generating them, not through force, but through understanding and conscious choice. When something unwanted appears in your life, ask not, "Why is this happening to me?" but "What in me is this showing me?" The correspondence reveals the hidden inner cause. Resolve that, and the outer effect resolves automatically. This is healing at the true level of cause. They hid this law because it means you are not a victim of external forces. You are the creator of internal patterns that manifest externally. Own your creative power, and external control mechanisms fail. This is why they desperately needed you ignorant of correspondence. Chapter 4, The Law of Polarity, the fourth metaphysical law, teaches that everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. These opposites are not separate things, but the same thing at different degrees. Hot and cold are both temperature. Love and hate are both passion. Success and failure are both outcomes of action. This understanding gives you the power to transmute anything into its opposite. You were taught that opposites are enemies. Good versus evil. Light versus dark. Positive versus negative. Choose one. Eliminate the other. This creates internal war and guarantees suffering. The actual truth is that opposites are complementary poles of the same thing, and mastery requires integrating both, not choosing between them. Every spiritual tradition that preserved real knowledge taught this. Taoism's yin and yang, Hermeticism's principle of polarity, Tantra's union of opposites. These were not philosophies, but operating manuals for working with reality as it actually functions. Trying to have one pole without the other is trying to have a magnet with only north or only south. Impossible. Daniel despised his anger. Spiritual teachings told him anger was negative, something to eliminate. He suppressed it for years, meditating, affirming, pretending to be peaceful. The suppressed anger became depression. Then, rage. Finally, explosion. He destroyed relationships and opportunities. Then he learned the law of polarity. Anger was not the enemy. It was one pole of passion. The same energy that became destructive anger could become constructive drive, not by suppression, but by transmutation. By recognizing that anger and enthusiasm are the same force at different frequencies. He learned to feel the anger fully, honor its message, then consciously shift the vibration from destructive to constructive, same energy, different pole. Now that force built his life instead of destroying it. This applies to everything. Fear and excitement are the same energy. Anxiety and anticipation, hatred and passion. Poverty and wealth. You cannot eliminate one pole, but you can transmute it to the other by shifting degree. This is mental alchemy. The real philosopher's stone is consciousness that can shift polarity. The wealthy understand this instinctively. They don't hate poverty. They understand it as the opposite pole of wealth and simply raise their frequency to the wealth pole. Those who hate poverty stay energetically connected to it. Those who understand polarity transcend both poverty and wealth, operating from the principle that generates either based on conscious choice. Here is what they hid. You cannot create light by fighting darkness. You create light by raising frequency. You cannot generate peace by suppressing anger. You generate peace by transmuting anger into its higher expression. Every negative has a positive pole. Every problem has a solution pole. Every fear has a courage pole. Same energy, different frequency. The practical application is to stop resisting one pole and trying to cling to the other. This creates the very struggle you're trying to escape. Instead, recognize that what you're experiencing is one pole of a dual force. Then consciously shift vibration toward the opposite pole, not through force, but through understanding that both poles are yours to access. If you're experiencing scarcity, recognize abundance is the opposite pole of the same energy. Don't fight scarcity. Shift frequency to abundance. If you're experiencing fear, recognize courage is the opposite pole. Don't suppress fear. Transmute it to courage. Same energy, different vibration. This is mastery of polarity. Reality is not black and white. Reality is a spectrum between poles. Learn to navigate the spectrum consciously and you control your experience completely. This is the power they could not allow you to have. Chapter 5, The Law of Rhythm, the fifth metaphysical law, reveals that everything flows out, and in everything has tides, all things rise and fall. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. This law governs all cycles from planetary orbits to human moods. Understanding it protects you from being victim to inevitable fluctuations. You were taught to expect constant growth, perpetual happiness, linear progress. This sets you up for disappointment and suffering. The truth is that reality operates in cycles. Day and night. Seasons. Economic booms and busts. Mood swings. Creative flow and fallow periods. Relationship intensity and calm. These are not problems. These are natural rhythms. Fighting them creates resistance and suffering. Flowing with them creates ease and power. Ancient wisdom keepers structured entire civilizations around understanding rhythm. They planted by moon phases. They initiated spiritual practices at specific cosmic cycles. They honored seasonal rhythms in their festivals. Modern society pretends rhythm doesn't exist, demanding constant productivity, perpetual positivity, unending growth. This violation of natural law is destroying people. Christina fought against rhythm her entire life. When creative energy was low, she forced herself to work. When social energy was depleted, she forced herself to be outgoing. When her natural cycle was rest, she pushed for action. She was exhausted, burnt out, and angry at herself for not being able to maintain constant high performance. Then, she learned the law of rhythm. She realized low periods were not failures, but necessary phases of the cycle. Rest was not weakness, but the preparation for the next surge. When she stopped fighting natural rhythm and started honoring it, her energy actually increased. By resting when rhythm called for rest, she had more power when rhythm called for action. This law explains why motivation comes and goes, why relationships have seasons, why businesses have cycles of expansion and contraction, why your creative output varies, why emotions fluctuate. None of this is personal failure. All of it is natural rhythm. Those who understand this flow with the cycles. Those who don't exhaust themselves fighting inevitable tides. The wealthy apply this to markets. They know markets move in cycles. They buy low during contraction rhythms and sell high during expansion rhythms. They don't expect perpetual growth or fear temporary downturns. They understand rhythm and profit from it. The masses buy high during manic phases and panic sell during contractions. They fight rhythm and lose. Here's the secret they hid. You can transcend rhythm by raising to a higher plane. Physical reality is bound by rhythm. Emotional states swing between poles, but consciousness itself can observe these rhythms without being controlled by them. When you identify with consciousness rather than the cycles, you gain stability. You watch the waves without drowning in them. The practical application is twofold. First, honor natural rhythms instead of fighting them. When energy is high, act boldly. When energy is low, rest deeply. Stop demanding constant sameness. Second, develop the observer consciousness that witnesses rhythms without being swept by them. Meditate to access this stable center. From that place, rhythms occur but don't control you. Track your own rhythms. Notice patterns in your energy, creativity, mood, productivity. Once you see the pattern, you can work with it instead of against it. Schedule important work during your high-energy phases. Plan rest during natural lulls. This is not laziness. This is mastery of rhythm. They hid this law because a population constantly fighting natural rhythms stays exhausted, confused, and easy to control. A population understanding rhythm becomes powerful, stable, and sovereign. Know the rhythm. Flow with it. Master it. Chapter 6, The Law of Cause and Effect. The sixth metaphysical law states, every cause has its effect, every effect has its cause. Nothing happens by chance. Chance is merely a name for law not recognized. This law reveals that your life is not random chaos, but the precise effect of specific causes. Change the cause, and you change the effect with absolute reliability. You were taught that life is mostly luck. Good things happen to lucky people. Bad things are random misfortune. Success is being in the right place at the right time. This is deliberate miseducation. The truth is that every single thing in your life is the effect of prior causes, most of which you set in motion unconsciously. There is no luck. There is only causation you understand, or causation you don't recognize. The masters who understood this law lived with perfect certainty. They knew that planting specific causes would produce specific effects. Not maybe. Not hopefully. Definitely. Plant apple seeds and apples grow. Plant thought seeds and matching experiences grow. This is not faith. This is applied causation. Richard blamed external forces for his problems, bad economy for his finances, difficult people for his relationship struggles, his genetics for his health issues. He was living in victim consciousness, believing effects had no causes he controlled. Then he learned the law of cause and effect. He began tracing every effect back to its cause. His financial struggles traced to his spending and earning patterns, which traced to his beliefs about money, which traced to childhood programming he never questioned. His relationship problems traced to his communication style, which traced to fear of vulnerability, which traced to early wounds he never healed. Every effect had a clear cause. When he changed the causes, effects changed automatically. This law operates at multiple levels. Physical causes produce physical effects. Mental causes produce mental effects. Emotional causes produce emotional effects. Spiritual causes produce spiritual effects. Most people try to change effects while maintaining causes. This is impossible. You cannot have health effects while maintaining disease causes. You cannot have wealth effects while maintaining poverty causes. Change must happen at the level of cause. The wealthy understand this deeply. They know that wealth is an effect of specific causes: value creation, smart investment, delayed gratification, continuous learning. They install these causes, and wealth is the inevitable effect. The poor focus on the effect, wanting wealth without installing its causes. They buy lottery tickets hoping for effects without causes. They stay poor because they violate this law. Here is what they desperately hid. You are causing your entire reality, not through single actions, but through patterns of thought, belief, emotion, and behavior that generate effects with perfect precision. Your current life is the sum total of all prior causes you set in motion. Your future life will be the sum total of causes you set in motion today. This means you have complete power and complete responsibility. The practical application requires reversing your thinking. Stop focusing on effects you want and start installing causes that produce them. Want better health? Install causes of health: better nutrition, exercise, stress management, positive mental patterns. Want better relationships? Install causes of good relationships: honest communication, vulnerability, boundaries, self-awareness. Want more wealth? Install causes of wealth: value creation, smart investment, financial education, productive action. Then trust the law. Once you install the cause, the effect must follow. This is not belief. This is mechanics. Apple seeds produce apples. Wealth causes produce wealth. Your only job is to install correct causes, then allow time for effects to manifest. The universe has no choice but to deliver effects that match causes. This is law. They hid this because a population understanding cause and effect becomes unstoppable. You cannot be controlled by external manipulation when you know you control the causes generating your reality. Take back your causative power. Install correct causes. Watch effects transform. Chapter 7, The Law of Gender, the seventh metaphysical law, teaches that gender is in everything. Everything has masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. This is not about physical sex, but about the fundamental forces of creation. Masculine is active, projective, analytical, electrical. Feminine is receptive, intuitive, synthesizing, magnetic. Creation requires both in balanced cooperation. Modern society has confused, corrupted, and weaponized this law to create division and weakness. But the truth remains. Every human contains both masculine and feminine principles. Every creative act requires both. Every achievement demands both. Imbalance in either direction creates dysfunction and blocks manifestation. The masculine principle alone is all action with no wisdom, all force with no flow, all doing with no being. Pure yang without yin burns itself out. The feminine principle alone is all potential with no actualization, all intuition with no implementation, all feeling with no form. Pure yin without yang never manifests. Balance and integration of both is the path to power. Marcus lived in pure masculine. Constant action, relentless drive, no rest, no receptivity, no intuitive guidance. He achieved some success through sheer force, but burned out completely. His health collapsed. His relationships died. His business plateaued. He was all output with no input, all projection with no reception. Then he learned to access his feminine principle. He began meditating to receive intuitive guidance. He learned to pause before acting. He allowed flow instead of forcing every outcome. When he balanced masculine action with feminine receptivity, his results exploded. He accomplished more with less effort. His health returned. His relationships healed. Balance restored power. This law explains why manifestation requires both visualization and action. Visualization is feminine, receptive, attracting. Action is masculine, projective, pursuing. One without the other fails. Pure visualization with no action is fantasy. Pure action with no vision is random thrashing. Combined both in balance and manifestation is inevitable. The ancient mystery schools taught sacred sexuality as the union of masculine and feminine principles. Not physical sex, but energetic polarity. The wand and the cup. The sword and the chalice. The sun and the moon. Every authentic spiritual tradition encoded this in their symbolism. The union of opposites. The sacred marriage. The integration of polarity into wholeness. Here's what they hid. Society has deliberately confused gender principles to create imbalance and weakness. Men were taught to reject feminine qualities as weakness. Emotions, intuition, receptivity were labeled unmasculine. Women were taught to reject feminine power and adopt toxic masculinity to succeed. Both sexes lost access to half their power. Reintegrating both principles restores complete human function. The practical application requires honest assessment. Which principle dominates in you? Are you over-masculine, all action, force, analysis, doing, constantly exhausted? Or are you over-feminine, all feeling, intuition, potential, never manifesting? Neither is superior. Both are necessary. The goal is integration and balance. If you're over-masculine, cultivate feminine. Meditate. Feel emotions fully. Rest without guilt. Receive without immediately reciprocating. Allow instead of forcing. Trust intuition. If you're over-feminine, activate masculine. Take decisive action. Use analytical thinking. Set firm boundaries. Complete projects. Give form to your visions. In manifestation work, honor both. Use feminine principle to get clear on desire. Feel into the vision. Attune to possibility. Then use masculine principle to take action, execute plans, persist through obstacles. The feminine attracts. The masculine pursues. Together they create. They hid this law because balanced humans wielding both masculine and feminine power are unstoppable creators. Divided and confused about gender, humans fight each other instead of mastering reality. Integrate both principles and claim your complete creative power. Chapter 8, The Law of Mentalism, the eighth metaphysical law, declares the all is mind. The universe is mental. This is the foundation of all Hermetic teaching and the master key that unlocks all others. Everything you experience, without exception, is a mental phenomenon occurring in consciousness. Not produced by consciousness. Consciousness itself taking apparent form. This is the most radical and most hidden truth. You were taught that mind is inside your head, a product of brain tissue, observing an external objective world. The actual truth is inverted. Mind is the only reality. What appears as external world is mind itself in different states. You are not in the universe. The universe is in you. not your personal ego mind, but the infinite mind that you are an expression of. Every sage who touched this truth tried to communicate it. The Buddhists call it emptiness, not nothing but the formless consciousness from which all forms arise. The Advaitists call it Brahman, the one infinite reality appearing as many things. The mystics call it the divine mind, the one consciousness dreaming the many dreams. The metaphysician understands it as the principle that mind is the substance and creator of all manifestation. Victoria spent decades believing consciousness was confined to her skull. Her thoughts were private internal events. The external world was solid objective reality happening independently. Then, through direct experience in deep meditation, the illusion shattered. She realized the boundary between inner and outer was fiction. There was only one field of consciousness appearing as both the observer and the observed. Her mind and the world mind were the same mind in different modes. This wasn't philosophy. This was direct perception that changed everything. If all is mind, then changing mind changes all. This law has profound implications. First, there is no dead, unconscious matter. Everything is alive with consciousness at different degrees. Second, your personal mind is connected to and part of universal mind. Third, reality is responsive to mind because reality is mind. Fourth, imagination is not fantasy, but the faculty for working directly with the mental substance that becomes material form. The practical application of this law is mental mastery. Since reality is mental, mastering your mind is mastering reality. Every thought is a creative act. Every belief is a command to the mental substance. Every sustained mental pattern manifests as corresponding physical form. This is why thought control is the supreme practice in every genuine spiritual tradition. Most people live with completely undisciplined minds. Random thoughts flow unconsciously. Negative patterns repeat automatically. Limiting beliefs operate unquestioned. This is creating their reality by default. Mental chaos produces chaotic results. Mental discipline produces desired results. Here is the process. First, become aware of your habitual thought patterns. Most operate beneath conscious awareness. Observe your thoughts without judgment. Notice the patterns. Second, deliberately choose which thoughts to feed and which to starve. Thoughts are like seeds. What you water grows. Third, practice sustained concentration on desired outcome. Hold images, feelings, and beliefs aligned with what you want to experience. The mental substance responds to sustained impression. The masters who understood that all is mind could perform what seemed like miracles. Healing, manifestation, synchronicity, even physical laws bending. Not because they violated physics, but because they understood that physical laws are mental constructs operating within mind. Change the mind, and you can change the construct. They hid this law most carefully because it places ultimate creative power in consciousness. A population that understands all is mind cannot be controlled by manipulating external conditions. They understand external conditions are effects of mind. Control the mind, and you control the manifestation. This is the master key they could never allow you to possess. Chapter 9, The Law of Sacrifice, the ninth metaphysical law, teaches that creation requires sacrifice. To bring something new into being, something old must be released. To rise to a higher level, you must leave the lower level. To gain what you desire, you must give up what you currently cling to. Nothing comes from nothing. Everything requires exchange. This is not punishment or cosmic unfairness. This is simple energetic mechanics. You cannot hold old and new simultaneously. You cannot occupy two levels at once. You cannot cling to the past and step into the future. Space must be made. Energy must be freed. Sacrifice is the price of transformation, and those who refuse to pay stay exactly where they are forever. Ancient cultures understood this through ritual. They made offerings. They fasted. They gave up comforts. not to appease gods, but to demonstrate willingness to sacrifice in order to receive. The sacrifice itself created the energetic opening for the new to enter. Modern spiritual teachings often ignore this, promising manifestation with no cost. This is deception. All creation requires sacrifice. Daniel wanted a new life, but refused to sacrifice anything from his old life. He wanted better relationships, but wouldn't leave toxic ones. He wanted wealth, but wouldn't sacrifice time to build it. He wanted health, but wouldn't give up destructive habits. He complained about his circumstances while clinging to everything that created them. Then he learned the law of sacrifice. Nothing changes until something is given up. He finally chose. He sacrificed the toxic relationship, the comfortable but limiting job, the destructive habits. The sacrifice was painful, but the space it created allowed everything he desired to enter. New relationship, new business, new health. None could have come while the old occupied that space. This law operates at every level. To gain muscle, you must sacrifice comfort and endure pain. To gain knowledge, you must sacrifice ignorance and face truth. To gain mastery, you must sacrifice mediocrity and embrace discipline. To gain consciousness, you must sacrifice unconsciousness and die to illusion. Every level up requires letting go of every level down. The wealthy understand this instinctively. They sacrifice immediate gratification for long-term gain. They give up security for opportunity. They release what's comfortable for what's possible. The poor refuse to sacrifice anything and wonder why nothing changes. They want more while giving up nothing. This violates the law. Creation requires death. Birth requires sacrifice. Here is what they hid. You are holding on to things that block everything you want. Beliefs, relationships, habits, identities, comforts. These must be sacrificed, not for punishment, but for transformation. The caterpillar must sacrifice its form to become the butterfly. You must sacrifice your current self to become your next self. Refuse the sacrifice and remain the caterpillar forever. The practical application demands brutal honesty. What are you clinging to that must be released? What old identity must die for the new one to be born? What comfortable but limiting situation must be left? What familiar but destructive pattern must be sacrificed? Make the list. Feel the resistance. Then choose. Sacrifice voluntarily or have it taken involuntarily. Change requires sacrifice. Transformation requires death. Perform ritual sacrifice if it helps. Write what you're releasing on paper. Burn it with intention. This externalizes the internal sacrifice and creates ceremonial power. Or simply decide. Choose sacrifice consciously. Release what must be released. Mourn if necessary. Then step forward into the space that sacrifice created. This is the path of all initiates. Die to the old, birth the new. They hid this law because it means comfortable stagnation is a choice. You're not stuck. You're unwilling to sacrifice what stuckness costs you. The moment you choose transformation over comfort, reality has no choice but to accommodate. Make the sacrifice. Pay the price. Receive the reward. Chapter 10, The Law of Attraction, the 10th metaphysical law, states that like attracts like. Your dominant vibration attracts matching experiences. Your habitual thoughts draw corresponding circumstances. Your emotional frequency magnetizes similar frequencies. This is not wishful thinking. This is energetic resonance functioning as law. You've heard of the law of attraction. Most explanations are incomplete or deceptive. Think positive thoughts and get positive results. Visualize wealth and become wealthy. This superficial understanding causes most people to dismiss the law entirely when simple visualization fails. But the law is real. The popular teaching is just incomplete. True attraction operates at the level of sustained vibration, not occasional thought. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. Your state of being broadcasts a frequency. Reality delivers matching frequencies. If your sustained state is scarcity, no amount of visualization overrides that signal. If your core vibration is unworthiness, affirmations won't attract worthiness. The broadcast you emit constantly is what attracts, not the thoughts you think occasionally. Patricia visualized wealth for years with no results. She decided the law was nonsense. But her core state was poverty consciousness. She felt unworthy of money. She believed rich people were evil. She was terrified of having wealth. Her occasional visualizations were drowned out by her constant broadcast of poverty frequency. When she finally addressed her core state, changing beliefs, healing unworthiness, and shifting her emotional frequency to abundance, wealth began flowing naturally. She wasn't attracting what she visualized, she was attracting what she became. This law explains why the rich get richer and poor get poorer, not because of unfairness, but because of frequency. Wealth consciousness attracts wealth. Poverty consciousness attracts poverty. Each reinforces itself through attraction until the pattern is consciously interrupted and shifted. The law also explains why miserable people attract more misery and joyful people attract more joy. Why victims attract more victimization and empowered people attract more empowerment. Your state determines your attraction. Change state, change attraction. Maintain state, maintain attraction. Here's the mechanism they hid. Your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs create an energetic field around you. This field broadcasts a specific frequency. Reality is one unified field of infinite possibility. The frequency you broadcast acts as a filter, allowing through only matching frequencies. You literally cannot perceive or experience frequencies that don't match yours. This is why two people in identical circumstances have completely different experiences, different frequencies, different perceptions, different attractions. The practical application requires working on your core state, not surface thoughts. What is your sustained emotional frequency? Monitor throughout the day. When you think about money, what do you feel? When you consider relationships, what's your state? When you imagine your future, what frequency arises? These core states determine your attraction, not your occasional positive affirmations. Change your state through immersion. Surround yourself with people who embody what you want to attract. Spend time in environments that resonate with your desired frequency. Consume content that elevates your state. Practice feeling the emotions of your desired reality until they become your default state. This is not fake it till you make it. This is become it until you attract it. The law works. The teaching is often incomplete. You don't attract from wanting. You attract from being. Become the frequency of what you desire, and attraction is automatic. They hid the true mechanism because a population mastering attraction cannot be controlled by manufactured scarcity. Take your power. Master your frequency. Let law handle the rest. Chapter 11, The Law of Assumption, the 11th metaphysical law, teaches that assumptions harden into facts. What you assume to be true becomes true in your experience, not because assumption changes objective reality, but because assumption shapes which reality you experience from infinite possibilities. Your assumptions are the architect of your experiential reality. This is not about positive thinking or self-deception. This is about understanding that consciousness collapses infinite possibility into specific experience based on assumption. Quantum physics hints at this. Observation collapses wave function into particle. What you assume determines what you observe. What you observe determines what you experience. What you experience becomes your reality. You assume things constantly without realizing it. You assume you'll wake up tomorrow. You assume gravity will function. You assume people will behave in predictable ways. These assumptions shape your reality so automatically you don't notice them operating. But every assumption, whether conscious or unconscious, is creating your experience. Marcus assumed business was difficult. This assumption was unconscious, inherited from his father. Because he assumed difficulty, he perceived difficulty everywhere. Opportunities looked like obstacles. Solutions looked like problems. Easy paths were invisible to him because his assumption filtered them out. His experience confirmed his assumption. Business was indeed difficult for him. Not because business is inherently difficult, but because his assumption created that experience. When he learned the law of assumption, he deliberately chose new assumptions. He assumed business was easy and enjoyable. At first, this felt like lying to himself, but he persisted. As his assumption shifted, his perception shifted. Opportunities he never saw before appeared. Solutions became obvious. Actions that previously felt hard became natural. Business became easy because his assumption created that reality. Nothing external changed. His assumption changed everything. This law is the power behind all successful manifestation. You don't need to know how desire will manifest. You don't need to force circumstances. You simply assume it's already done. Live from that assumption. Feel from that assumption. Think from that assumption. The assumption will harden into corresponding fact as surely as planted seeds become trees. Neville Goddard taught this law most clearly in modern times. Assume the wish fulfilled. Don't wish for it. Don't hope for it. Assume it's already true and live accordingly. The bridge of incidents will appear to make the assumption fact. This is not faith. This is applied metaphysics. Here is what they hid. You are assuming your current reality into existence right now. Every limitation you experience is based on assumption. I'm not good enough. Money is scarce. Opportunities are rare. Life is struggle. These assumptions create matching realities. Change the assumption and reality must change because reality is the manifestation of consciousness and assumption directs consciousness. The practical application is simple but requires discipline. Identify your limiting assumptions. They hide in statements you think are facts. I can't do that. That's impossible. People like me don't get that. These are not facts. These are assumptions masquerading as facts. Second, consciously choose empowering assumptions. I am capable. That's possible. I am the kind of person who receives that. Third, live from the new assumption before seeing evidence. This is the key. Don't wait for reality to change your assumption. Change your assumption and reality must follow. Practice assumption through imaginative acts. Before sleep, imagine from the assumption that your desire is fulfilled. Don't visualize seeking it. Visualize having it. Feel the relief, satisfaction, gratitude of completion. This impresses consciousness with the assumption. Repeated impressions harden into manifest fact. They hid this law because it means reality is malleable. You are not victim to fixed circumstances. You are creator of experiential reality through assumption. The system needs you assuming limitation. You assuming power breaks their control. Choose your assumptions consciously. Reality has no choice but to conform. Chapter 12, The Law of Surrender, the final metaphysical law, teaches that ultimate power comes through surrender. After all doing, there must be releasing. After all creating, there must be allowing. After all effort, there must be trust. This is not giving up. This is understanding that the infinite intelligence that runs the universe knows more than your limited ego. Surrender is not weakness. It is supreme strength. Western culture teaches the opposite. Control everything. Force outcomes. Trust nothing. This creates exhaustion, resistance, and suffering. The truth is that you plant seeds but don't force flowers to bloom. You set intentions but don't manipulate every variable. You act from inspiration but allow universal intelligence to handle the how. Surrender is the final piece that allows all other laws to work. Margaret tried to control everything, every detail planned, every outcome forced, every uncertainty eliminated. She was constantly stressed, exhausted, and disappointed when reality didn't follow her exact script. She believed surrender meant failure. Then she learned it meant trust in intelligence beyond ego. She began releasing control, setting intentions but letting go of how they manifested, taking inspired action but trusting the timing. The results were miraculous. Things she couldn't have planned appeared. Synchronicities she couldn't have orchestrated happened. Better outcomes than she imagined manifested. Not through control, but through surrender. Surrender is not passive. It's profoundly active. You do everything you can, then release attachment to results. You give your absolute best effort, then trust the universe with outcomes. You plant and water seeds, then surrender the growth process to nature. This is divine partnership. Your job is conscious intention and aligned action. Universe's job is manifestation through infinite means you cannot perceive. Every spiritual master who touched true power lived in surrender. Jesus surrendered in Gethsemane. Buddha surrendered under the Bodhi tree. Every awakening involves the ego surrendering its illusion of control. This isn't defeat. This is recognizing what you truly control, which is consciousness and state, and what you don't control, which is external circumstances. You control the cause. Surrender the effect. Here is the paradox they hid. Surrender increases power rather than decreasing it. When you surrender outcome attachment, you free energy currently wasted on resistance and control. When you trust intelligence greater than ego, that intelligence can work through you. When you release the how, universal creativity has space to deliver results beyond your imagination. The practical application requires distinguishing surrender from giving up. Giving up is quitting before acting. Surrender is releasing after acting. Giving up is fear-based collapse. Surrender is trust-based allowing. Do everything in your power from aligned consciousness. Then surrender results. This creates flow state where effort becomes effortless and strain becomes grace. Practice surrender through ritual if helpful. After setting intentions and taking action, literally open your hands palms up and say, "I surrender this to the infinite intelligence that created stars and grows forests. I trust in perfect timing and optimal outcomes." Feel the release in your body. Let go of the mental clench. Notice the relaxation that follows. This is surrender. Surrender is not final defeat. It is ultimate victory. Victory over ego's need to control. Victory over fear's demand for certainty. Victory over limited perception's insistence it knows best. Surrender opens you to miracles that control blocks. Surrender allows grace that force prevents. Surrender is the master's move. They hid this law because a population surrendered to infinite intelligence cannot be controlled by finite human authority. When you know that true power comes through alignment with universal intelligence, earthly power structures lose their hold. Surrender to the infinite. Claim your true power. You now hold the 12 metaphysical laws they hid from you. You understand how reality actually works beneath the surface illusion. You see the mechanics of manifestation. You know the principles that govern existence. The question is no longer what to do. The question is whether you will apply what you know. These laws are not beliefs to adopt. They are realities to recognize. They function whether you accept them or not. But conscious application gives you power unconscious subjection denies. You can live as victim of forces you don't understand or as master of principles you've now learned. Every master who walked this earth understood these laws. They used different words, came from different cultures, lived in different times. But they all taught the same truths. Reality is consciousness. Vibration creates form. Correspondence reveals patterns. Polarity enables transformation. Rhythm governs cycles. Cause determines effect. Gender requires balance. All is mind. Sacrifice enables creation. Assumption shapes experience. Surrender allows manifestation. The system hid this from you because understanding it frees you. Freed humans cannot be controlled. Conscious creators cannot be manipulated. Those who master reality according to its actual laws become sovereign. This is what they feared. This is why the knowledge was suppressed. But suppression failed. Truth cannot be permanently hidden. What was concealed is now revealed. You have received what was forbidden. Whether you use it determines everything. Knowledge without application is entertainment. Application without integration is experimentation. But consistent conscious application of these laws transforms reality itself. Choose one law to master first, not all 12 at once. Pick the law that resonates most. Study it deeply. Apply it daily. Test it thoroughly. When you've integrated one, move to the next. Each law builds on the others. Each law opens doorways to mastery. 12 laws mastered is mastery of reality itself. I have created a practical guide for working with each law. You will find it in the pinned comment below. This is not theory. This is actionable practice refined through centuries of application. Download it. Use it. Transform through it. The classified book of metaphysics is now open. What was hidden is now known. What happens next is entirely your choice. Will you remain asleep to the truth, comfortable in ignorance? Or will you wake up to your creative power and reshape reality according to these laws? They hid this from you. Now you know it. The only question remaining is what you will do with what you know. Reality is waiting for your conscious command. The laws are available for your use. The power is already yours. Take it.